It's easy to spend too much on a smartphone these days. Apple's iPhone 11 and iPhone 11 Pro can cost you thousands, and Samsung's high-end Galaxy S10 and Galaxy Note 10 Plus aren't that much cheaper. Thankfully, nowadays, it's much easier to find a cheaper and more budget-friendly alternative to these flagship devices than ever before. The list of shared features between mid-tier devices and premium ones continues to grow, while the gap in quality continues to shrink. Modern mid-tier smartphone shoppers are getting more for less more often than ever before. Realme X2 Pro. The heart of Realme X2 Pro is the 8-core 7nm Snapdragon 855 Plus processor, overclocked version of the 855th, which easily runs any games. Since the balanced performance mode is enabled by default in the system, it's best to bring all the most demanding to the game center right away. As a result, the chip will be able to reach its full potential when launching PUBG Mobile or Shadowgun Legends, but will not waste extra energy in everyday tasks. 8GB of RAM is enough for several years ahead, but the manufacturer removed the micro SD slot in vain. Filling in the built-in 128GB in the same few years is not such an impossible task. The case is covered on two sides by Gorilla Glass 5, a metal frame. The model is available in two colors, blue and white. The location of the rear camera of the smartphone gives common roots with OnePlus. In total, we have 4 eyes in a row, a 64-megapixel module with an f1.8 aperture, an average telephoto quality of 13 megapixels with a two-fold approximation, an 8-megapixel wide for shooting panoramas in good light, and a 2-megapixel depth sensor, because the triple camera in 2020 sounds somehow solid. In automatic mode, Realme X2 Pro combines 4 pixels into 1 and saves 16-megapixel photos. In fact, switching to 64-megapixel mode is worth it, only on a bright sunny day. In the afternoon, decent pictures with good detail are obtained. At dusk the picture becomes noisy, and the built-in night mode does not really help to fix the situation, but you can try installing the ported version of Google Camera. 4K video is recorded at up to 60 frames per second, however, for a smooth picture with electronic stabilization, you will have to switch to Full HD mode. Total, the camera is good, but not flagship. There are no complaints about the front 16-megapixel camera. Even with very active use, Realme X2 Pro works until late in the evening. In addition, Super VOOC technology allows you to fully charge a 4000 mAh battery in just 35 minutes. How did they do it? In fact, there are two elements with a capacity of 2000 mAh inside, and 25 watts each is supplied. An important point, Magic only works with a proprietary power adapter. If it is not at hand, the model can work with power delivery and quick charge standards. Other pleasant moments include an NFC chip for contactless payment, a 3.5mm headphone jack and stereo sound. The speaker plays along with the loud main speaker. An update to Android 10 with a new Realme user interface shell has already been released for the smartphone. Xiaomi Mi Note 10 Pro, the world's first smartphones with a 108-megapixel camera, pleasantly surprised. The ultra-high resolution of the new generation sensor turned out to be not just a trick of marketers, but a really useful thing. Besides, Xiaomi generously poured out additional modules for shooting in a wide range of focal lengths. The standard Xiaomi Mi Note 10 in the 6/128GB configuration. The rest of the Notes has full parity. Both the and there is used a 6.47-inch AMOLED Full HD Plus screen curved on the sides. Gorilla Glass 5 glass panels are installed in front and behind. The frame between them is made of aluminum, and the 8-core Snapdragon 730G chipset is working inside. It is enough for most tasks. The performance ceiling can be felt except in games. The penta camera on the back of the Xiaomi Mi Note 10 includes 5 modules. The focus is on the 108-megapixel Samsung sensor with f 1.69 aperture and optical stabilization. At full resolution, the detail of the pictures is very high, but you have to pay for it with a long processing time. For 3-4 seconds, the camera application freezes, not allowing you to take another shot. With the flagship processor, everything would be faster, but Xiaomi decided differently. Since the average user is not used to waiting so much, the default mode is 27 megapixel. In such photographs, labels from distant signage may not be visible, but due to stitching of 4 adjacent pixels, the dynamic range is expanded. There is also an intelligent night mode. A feature of the new module is a shallow depth of field when shooting at close range. Another 8 megapixel telephoto module with OIS supports 5x zoom, 3.7x optical zoom plus software algorithms. You can capture more space using the 20 megapixel, however, it needs a lot of light. The lower camera with the most modest resolution of 2 megapixels is responsible for macro photography. The smartphone can shoot 4K video at 30 frames per second. When reduced to Full HD, the super stabilization function is available. A 32 megapixel selfie camera is inscribed in a drop-shaped cutout on the screen. The capacity of the built-in battery is 5260 mAh. Fast charging is claimed, from 0 to 58% in 30 minutes and up to 100% in just over an hour. Xiaomi Mi Note 10 calmly survives until the evening of the second day. However, with the active use of the camera and prolonged gaming, the device can be discharged in a day. In stock NFC and an infrared port for controlling equipment, also left a 3.5mm audio jack. Honor 20 Pro. For half the price of premium smartphones, the Honor 20 Pro offers one of the best cameras on the market, in terms of photography, and a large amount of memory where you can store all the pictures and videos. By tradition, the Honor flagship received an IPS screen instead of AMOLED. Whether it is good or bad depends on your personal preferences. The diagonal of the panel is 6.26 inches with Full HD plus resolution of 2340 by 1080 pixels. In the upper left corner there is a small hole for the 32 megapixel front camera. It is not very striking, and in games it can even be closed with fingers, so the display feels frameless. The case is a sandwich of glass and the metal. Like the Galaxy S10e, on the right side is the power key with a fingerprint scanner. Thanks to a special multi-layer coating on the back, a volume effect with interesting patterns and highlights is created. The rear camera system includes 4 modules at once. The main 48-megapixel camera is equipped with optical stabilization and aperture optics f1.4. That is why the Honor 20 Pro easily outperforms most of its competitors in the quality of night shooting. All is well and in the afternoon, although if you compare the device with the already mentioned Galaxy S10e, the Korean takes sharper photos. The upper lens in the protruding part is a 16-megapixel wide, f2.2, with a viewing angle of 117 degrees, and at the bottom there is an 8-megapixel camera with an f2.4 aperture, triple optical zoom and, again, optical stabilization. The fourth module for macro shooting at 2 megapixels stands apart and, in truth, is not particularly needed. During video recording, you can switch between different cameras, except macro. In all modes, only electronic stabilization is active. In 4K videos, the result of its work is visible only after saving the file. In poor lighting, software algorithms are not able to compensate for shaking. The picture begins to float and double. For speed, the 7nm 8-core Kirin 980 chip of Huawei's own design is responsible. It is used in most of the top models of the company for 2019. Honor 20 Pro cannot be called a gaming smartphone. Over time, the process resets frequencies, and FPS in heavy games sometimes lags. Things are better with projects that support GPU turbo acceleration technology. These include PUBG Mobile, Fortnite, FIFA Mobile and others. RAM 8 GB. built-in a lot at once, 256GB, but without the possibility of expansion. A 4000 mAh battery provides up to 2 days of work with a total of 7 hours of active screen in mixed mode. If you load harder, the firmware will have to be charged every day. There is dual-band Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 5.0 and NFC, but the 3.5mm audio jack has been removed. For ordinary headphones, you will have to use an adapter with USB Type-C, comes with the device. Samsung Galaxy S10 Lite. Samsung Galaxy S10 Lite received a powerful Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 processor instead of the Exynos proprietary. For mobile gamers, this is even a plus. It is a pity that only one multimedia speaker remained in the smartphone, and that one without the flagship sound. By the way, you will also not find a 3.5mm headphone jack, and new Samsung devices do not work with inexpensive adapters. You will have to look for options with a built-in DAC, for example, a proprietary adapter. It's still hard to find, or an Apple analog, limits the maximum volume. The model for our market has 6GB of RAM and 128GB of internal memory on board. Instead of the second SIM card, you can insert a micro SD card. The Samsung Galaxy S10 Lite is closer to the A series in the quality of shooting, and from the buttons there is only optical stabilization in the main 48-megapixel module. In most scenarios, the smartphone takes pictures in 12-megapixel mode, and this is quite enough. Daytime shots are good. In poor lighting the built-in night mode helps, but you can also get a blurry shot with it. In the updates, the developers added the ability to record 4K video at 60 frames per second and the stabilization function at 30 FPS. Initially it worked only in Full HD. The other two cameras on the back are an ultra-wide-angle 12-megapixel module and a 5-megapixel macro camera. Both are best used in good lighting. 32-megapixel selfie camera. The battery with a capacity of 4500 mAh with support for fast charging with a capacity of up to 45 watts is responsible for autonomous work. The complete 25-watt adapter, although it looks simpler on paper, the indicators are also decent. The battery gains more than 60% of capacity in 30 minutes. The phone lasts up to 2 days without high loads or a day with active use. NFC is also in place. Cat S41. The Caterpillar licensed Cat S41 SUV is designed for extreme conditions. It complies with the military standard MIL, STD, 810G and can operate in the temperature range from -25°C to +55°C. The weighty case made of plastic and rubber withstands falling onto concrete from a height of 1.8 meters. There is also protection against moisture and dust of IP68 class. The model is resistant to immersion to a depth of 2 meters for an hour. The bonus is a powerful 5000 mAh battery. Even with heavy use, the charge will last for a couple of days. In terms of other characteristics, everything is rather modest. The Cat S41 was equipped with a bright 5-inch Full HD display, which is covered by Corning Gorilla Glass 5 and adequately responds to touch with wet fingers. At the bottom there are 3 mechanical buttons. It will be convenient to press them in gloves. The MediaTek Helio P20 processor is already out of date, but for everyday tasks it will be enough with the head. The RAM is 3 GB, and in addition to the 32 GB drive there is a micro SD card slot. That the rear camera is 13 megapixels, that the front 8 megapixel module of stars from the sky is not enough. Cat S41 will not be able to compete even with inexpensive Chinese who have already learned to shoot well in the afternoon and acceptable in the evening. The HDR mode in the Caterpillar model is better not to include, just ruin the pictures. The smartphone came out with Android 7.0 Nougat on board. Later, an update was released to Android 8.0 Oreo, which also fixed problems with the standard application for calls. There is no fingerprint scanner, but the manufacturer has not forgotten about the NFC chip for contactless payments via Google Pay. Apple iPhone SE 2020. The 6-core Apple A13 Bionic processor, like that of the iPhone 11, is responsible for the speed. Such power is even excessive in the iPhone SE. Under load, the smartphone does not slow down, but quickly discharges. Be that as it may, in mixed mode it works a standard day. The battery capacity of 1821 mAh supports fast charging up to 18 watts. However, a modest 5-watt power supply was put in the box. Also announced are wireless charging and NFC to pay for purchases through Apple Pay. The main camera is the 12-megapixel module with f1.8 optics uses an old sensor with small pixels. As in the iPhone 8, the quality was enhanced mainly due to the processing algorithms and the smart HDR function. The iPhone SE did not deliver the night mode, and although you can get a good shot in low light, competitors are stronger in this regard. But Apple's smartphones are traditionally in the lead in video shooting, supporting 4K video recording at 60 frames per second with stabilization. The front camera was inherited from the classic iPhone's 7MP, from the new only portrait mode with blur. The housing is protected against dust and water according to the IP67 standard. The main speaker at the bottom end works in a duet with conversational to create a stereo effect. Externally, the new product can be distinguished from the iPhone 8 by the logo that has moved to the center at the back. The colors have also changed. The gray space has changed to a deeper black, instead of silver, white, instead of gold, red. The front panel is black for everyone. By the way, in addition to the physical SIM card, iPhone SE can work with eSIM. How does a smartphone for $560 differ from cheaper ones? This device already has some flagship functions. The leader of our top REALME X2 Pro is comparable in performance to the expensive Samsung Galaxy S20. The new Apple iPhone SE is water-resistant and supports wireless charging, and Xiaomi Mi Note 10 and Honor 20 Pro got very good cameras. It remains only to decide what is more important for you. Are these suitable for games? With popular time killers, any of the smartphones in the top can easily cope. For games with more complex graphics, REALME X2 Pro with stereo sound is best. Almost the same power processor is used in the Samsung Galaxy S10 Lite, but the camera phone Xiaomi Mi Note 10 has nothing to impress mobile gamers. In iPhone SE 2020, the potential of the A13 Bionic productive chipset is prevented from revealing a modest battery, and the 4.7-inch screen is small by today's standards. Which one is better at video shooting? In this discipline, the iPhone SE 2020 wins with the ability to record 4K video at 60 frames per second with stabilization. The closest to him was a Korean Samsung Galaxy S10 Lite with the same maximum resolution, but stabilization only at 30 FPS for 4K clips. Chinese brands have not yet honed video filming algorithms, although Xiaomi Mi Note 10 does a little better than the rest of the devices in our rating. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.